You can, and that idea of liberty is an important one. And again, hopefully a system we try to maintain in the United States is we don't use criminal courts to go after political rivals, these kinds of issues. So, but politicians do commit crimes too. So it's a really sensitive thing in the West, but I think that's part of the success of the West. So, all right, we have one individual that, and just thank you all for signing up today, and you're free to go whenever you need to go. But I will bring a corner captain, because he's a captain of one of the ships in the flotilla, our own Mark D. Parker. So Mark, I don't think you'd have any comments about anything we were talking about today. You don't care about any of these matters.
Not at all. It's funny. Well, you talked about, you mentioned Michael bringing up the baby. And if you're confused about how to behave in this world, it seems I'm so simple and I'm such a fundamentalist. It seems to me the easiest way to how to know what spirit not to participate in is I'm not going to trade the welfare of Michael's baby for mine. It's a very simple ethical calculation. But yet that seems to be, the moment we're in.
But it's a difficult one too, though, Mark, because let's say you are responsible for your baby in a way that you're not responsible for Michael's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But am I willing to be accountable? Am I going to be, economically, politically, however, trade. Jesus calls us to love our neighbor as ourselves. And when asked what that means, he gives a parable. Everyone knows the parable. It's self-sacrificial. It hurts. It means I get less. You get possibly more. But, and the comfort for me is knowing that in making that sacrifice, I'm doing God's work in a broken world. And I'm okay with that.
Sorry. It's interesting that I have also seen children of ministers who felt betrayed by their earthly father because their fathers, who were pastors, put other children ahead of his own. And on the basis of that, some of these people then decide that if the heavenly father is like their earthly father, then what are they to do?
I mean, it's a balance, isn't it?
Well,
isn't it a balance?
But you didn't phrase it as a balance when you first made the statement.
Well, no, I'm not going to starve my child. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to trade his welfare for mine, and I'm not going in reverse, going to trade my child's welfare for another either. I'm not going, makes me think of the pathology that possessed Nazi Germany, where it's like you're going to give your all for the future, right? It's for the greater good. That's irrational too. You do have to balance, and part of too what you see in this deconstruction of a lot of pastoral families are what breaks those children: the sacrifice that was made by the family, or the hypocrisy they witnessed at home. Which broke them more?
Usually it's either or. I find children of clergy parents, when the parents were hypocrites, that's a certain kind of breaking. But children of clergy parents where there was all of basically the children did the math and said, Dad loved everybody. Dad loved his ministry, which may very well have been his ego, more than he loved us.
Mm-hmm. That's the hypocrisy part. Yeah.
Well, that's not hypocrisy.
Well, it is. If I love that's ambition. That's I'm feeding. If I'm doing ministry out of personal ambition, that's a form of hypocrisy. I'm play acting, and the
That's
kids see
all.
it.
It's
No,
also a thing that's almost impossible to see in the middle of it. Like
you
it's
know,
like you talk about like dealing with like mixed human motives, especially in like ministry world. Like the difference between serving God and ambition. Like there's a
Mhm.
razor thin line between those two, if there's even a distinction between those two.
it's interesting, when God, first speaks to Moses and he says, I'm the God of Abraham and of Isaac and of Jacob. And those are three very different gods that those three men experienced. Because, Isaac gets dragged up the mountain there and his dad is willing to do all the crazy stuff. And then, it's like, what the heck was that? And that's the same, but the same God doesn't ask Isaac to do anything like that. He just blesses him. Like everything he does, even when he does dumb stuff like copying his dad with his little shenanigan with pretending his wife's his sister, nothing happens. And so it's like, I don't know. And then again with Jacob, and a totally different experience again. And I think that is some of the thing of even just always wanting to have everything flatten into this same narrative experience where it's too much and it's too big for us to know how God is doing, what God is doing with what he allows, and especially, and I didn't get my last words because the baby was crying, but what I was going to say is, like Ezra's thing about like there's no escape, and like I felt that everywhere. I felt it from political, the news thing, felt it at church, felt it like in the economic situation of like whatever. That is a popular message. It's great when when everything is an existential crisis and you have to figure out the one right thing to do. You will get a lot of hits on your algorithm for saying that message. And the most unpopular message is to say, you know what, there's a lot of really good stuff about life. We have a lot of really good opportunities. There's a lot of things that are better now than they used to be. And it's not to say we shouldn't try to fix things or whatever, but sometimes it's okay to say that. And that's a message that a lot of Isaacs need to hear, maybe more so than Abraham. But yeah, so and I think that the fact that that is such an unpopular message should tell us something, because Jesus was always unpopular. So if he was here today, maybe he wouldn't be like, are we exactly corrupt as the institutions in Jerusalem at the turn of the first century? Maybe not. Maybe he wouldn't say that thing. He might say, you guys have a lot of stuff that's going on good here. And it might be a very different message. So
there's the problem is there's so many things out there, and there's a lot of children out there. We'll just go with that. And when we start constructing these trolley car problems on which way do we pull the lever, I mean, I'm not on at some point I'm not the one on the lever. And I need, and the call of the parables is really about the neighbor, that which the person you're passing on the street, and not the hypothetical optimizing which children we save and which we don't. So I really struggle with the being able to solve the how do we save the most children, or I don't know how you would characterize that, Mark, but that really keeps pulling me back to the agency that I do have, and the 3 children I do have, and how do I do the good in that which I have agency.
I really appreciate today's conversation. It's, it's not the kind of conversation that you'll walk away with answers, but I think we've really wrestled with a lot of really difficult things today. And like you said, Paul, I'll go back and I'll listen to points of this and I'll ponder them because they are hard. Um, and I deal with them. I'm a father, and my kids are grown now, but I'm always having to make priority decisions. I mean, I think my men's group at Living Stones is bored because when it comes time for me to tell them how I'd like them to pray for me, my weekly prayer is almost always help me to manage my time, manage my attention. I find it so difficult.
How much of this is swallowing or choking on gnats and swallowing camels? There's I see a great deal of rationalizing of real obvious harm for imagined goods or imagined obligations. It's really, really not that ethically complicated to understand that try to put this in a diplomatic way. Yeah, well, kids in cages, is that really that hard to understand? We have video and audio now of a protest inside a detention center of people screaming, "Let us out!" Many of them children in one of these detention centers in the United States. You can, to me, any attempt to rationalize that as good or right or just when there's not been due process of law and there's not, and even if they are, how do you rationalize 30 dead people in custody and so on and so forth? It's just I understand the world is complicated.
So, Mark, why aren't you arrested releasing these children from cages?
What?
Like you can go down there and try to unlock the gates and try to let the children out, and then you'll be in the cage with them.
Well, you could make the same
Like, what's your
argument about what
agency?
Paul said about Jesus. You could say the same thing. Why didn't Jesus raise hell about the Caesar who was diddling little children in on his little island paradise? Why didn't Jesus do that? That's a bullshit diversion. You've got to say, I could go down there and I would get shot or arrested and it'd be over and I would be I might make the news for 30 seconds to accomplish nothing. But
yes.
I can simply say it is wrong. It is obviously wrong in the same way that segregation was wrong. Barton Stone, the man who organized the Cane Ridge Revival, he was a Presbyterian. And the Cane Ridge Revival occurred in 1801. He was so moved by the experience that he sold his slaves and ultimately moved out of Kentucky, a slave state, to Illinois at great cost to his personal career. It made him more or less irrelevant to the movement he started. Sometimes we have to make hard decisions. They're slow to come around, but they happen when God moves in us and we experience the Holy Spirit in powerful ways. I'm not expecting change all at once, but it is an obvious evil. It isn't hard. It really is not complicated. Children, if just put it, let's really crunch it down and make it simple. How would you want your child treated? Anywhere in the world, under any circumstances, but if you found yourself in a similar position, how would you want your children to be treated? Then treat their children the same way. Have the same expectation for anybody else's kid within the borders of the United States or outside. It's not that, see, when you get the brass tacks, it's not that complicated.
Yeah, no, it's evil stuff, and I have no agency there.
Sam.
Except you have a voice.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I'll stop.
been thinking about the earthly father of Jesus, Joseph, and actually he's been on my mind for a while. And his, well, the son that he was given to take care of, even though in a way he wasn't his son, had faced an attempted genocide. And like I know in the Byzantine Catholic Church near me, whether, well, whatever you think of it, there's bones that were, it's a shrine, and the martyrs' bones are placed in chronological order. And the first bones are bones that were from that time period, that from children, at least as they would say, who didn't make it through. And I think of that, and yeah, I mean, Joseph was called to obviously protect his family, but he was also called to love his child. And I don't know, it's hard to know what we're called to sometimes. I don't doubt that we're called to speak out against evil to the extent that we can. But I also, I don't know, I mean, the phrase sometimes it gets abused, but I mean, my kingdom is not of this world is also something that's in the Bible. And I don't know how you balance those things. But I guess to Mark's point, if that sounds dismissive at all, though, I mean, Christ is with those who grieve, and I really believe that too. And yeah, I'm actually not in a position where I probably should really be on this live stream at all right now, but I've got work to do. But yeah, I guess I'm just thinking of Joseph, though. And yeah, that's what's on my mind today.
All right. Thank you, Sam. Jeremy, you're next.
Hello, everybody. I was going to joke that I was going to joke, and I will joke that I was clean shaven when I started watching this, and because of all the beardliness, right? There's it's interesting. 9 out of 9, right? Is that chance, or is there's something deeper there? I've been looking at a book called the Deeds of the Danes, which is a book written by a guy in the 12th century from Denmark about the history of the Danish people, and it goes back to the historical and mythological roots of the Danes, and then it traces up to about the 12th century. One of the things that's interesting about it, and maybe wedgeable into this conversation, is that all the Danes became Christian quite late, but in terms of like when they became Christian, I think that was like 9th or 10th century, something like that. But prior to that, all their heroes are highly. There's a real focus on morality amongst them. There's a focus on living and conducting themselves well, which is true also of the Greek and the Roman world, right? But the story has this clear narrative that only with the integrating principle of Christianity do they become transformed into something greater. And the way I was looking at that story in relation to this conversation was the idea that there is an element of, even stripped down without Christianity, how would I orientate my life in the best way? And then using Christianity to augment it and to go to the next level. And I sometimes wonder, as a society, do we get caught up in the idea that Christianity is the tool that helps us to even start the process, whereas in reality there are even biological and basic principles. And maybe that's kind of hitting on some of the angles you were hitting on, Mark, you know, where you're kind of orientating about looking at the other person's child, understanding hierarchies. This is pre-Christian, and maybe we get a better sense of what it means to be able to use Christianity and interpret society through it, if we were able to somehow or other step outside of Christianity and be like the Danes in the 9th century, preloaded to make that massive spring forward, just like the pagans, right? Should we, C.S. Lewisy, like, almost become pagan again, right? And I know, Paul, you said like a few days ago, there's no going back to paganism, right? But is there some type of vitalism of paganism that we could have as a moral centering principle to jump us forward?
I think part of the reason. Go ahead,
Hey,
Matt.
yeah, that's really, really interesting. I think we, especially living in like a Christian culture where ideally we're always trying to get people to build their lives on Christianity as foundation, and not enough discussion is put towards Christianity as perfecter of your bare life. It's and I think some of that comes back to, again, like ignorance or ignoring natural law, recognizing that there are things that are available to everyone, and a less of an appreciation for, I don't know, just natural human goodness across the board.
Mark Jackson.
Hiya, folks.
Hey, Mark.
How are you all doing?
Good.
To be honest, I've lost the thread of this conversation, and I've lost the thread of the comments. So I'm just confused right now. Something I would like to say is, you people in the comments, just stop ragging on Mark D. Parker for his form of care. He cares. I mean, that's something already.
Yeah,
maybe you argue about, oh, you should care for this and you should care for that and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, just stop it.
Thank you, Mark.
Love you, man.
Love you too.
I disagree with you a ton, but
I know you do.
Part of what I struggle with too is we see these snippets of things. I thought the other day I was thinking about the fact of, okay, so I was living illegally in the Dominican Republic for quite a bit. We'd enter with a tourist visa, and then after a while, if you'd overstay your visa for a certain amount of time, you'd pay an extra $20 when you'd leave the country. At some point, usually the way these things work, let's say someone is determined that you're in the country illegally, you probably get a letter, and the letter probably says show up at X court date. And then you show up at the court date and you make your plea, and then basically it's okay. Well, if your petition has not been granted, now it's your job to leave the country. So you gather your goods, you gather your children, and you leave the country. Now, if you decide to throw out the mail, if you decide to not listen to the warning, if you decide to, and it's basically like, well, I'm just going to stay here until they catch me. Well, where's my agency in what I've just set up? Because and I certainly would love to have a system where if I got arrested, my wife and children would stay with me. I don't know if that's workable. So it's just and that's where we get to the earlier conversation about systems, and systems are always they can very quickly get very awful. I remember when we were running a homeless shelter here at church, and we separated the men from the women, and they couldn't have any pets with them. Some of these people really love their pets, but the only way I can shelter you is if I put the men over there and the women over there, because if we keep the men and the women together, I think we all kind of know what's probably going to happen. And so they have the men and the women, and then those with children get priority, which I think is right. But then, when I am actually, and then I would go to, Haitians would get grabbed on the street, and I would go to the Fortaleza. And if the Haitian was a part of my church, I could probably talk the commandant to let him go, just because I was there. But if the Haitian wasn't part of my church, you know, they usually get driven in a bus and dumped at the border. And all their personal property was there in the Dominican Republic. But if he had an extra, if he had enough money in his pocket, he could probably buy off the guard. There's corruption. I mean, I've just lived with these kinds of things, and it can be so maddening. And then I think about, well, I helped these Haitians. What about those Haitians? And it's just really hard. Ethan.
There's a clip you've been playing, Paul, of Daniel Garner, OG Rose, on a Luke Thompson live stream. And one of the things he said that I thought was interesting was, like, global pluralism is like the issue of the age, and we're going to have to find some way to deal with that. And he says there's three ways to deal with it: the economic, the institutional, and the encounter. And I guess one of the things I guess I would just ask is, like, it seems like it doesn't matter which political side you're on, most of those are being, like, machine mediated. Like, I deal with the government mainly through machines. I'm encountering you through a machine. I deal with money transactions through a machine. So, like, I feel like machine mediated government and, like, all of it. So, like, Democrats and Republicans, I assume, are probably going to just continue that path forward. And I'm just curious, like, what other options do we have to deal with pluralism? Like, is there something beyond the economic, the institutional, the encounter, or the machine mediated?
Ethan, do you remember the Rwandan genocide in the 90s? Are you old enough to remember that?
I was born in 92.
Okay, so you were little. What was it? 2.5 million people were killed. They were killed by machete. They were it's basically an Iron Age, Bronze Age culture. No machines, or very little. It was one tribe hated the other tribe because the other tribe had collaborated with the colonialists, and there was a history of greed and bitterness and resentment, and it ultimately resulted in genocide. But basically all by machete, all using just hand tools. It was up close, neighbor versus neighbor, and so on.
But incentivized by the old technology of radio, right? Radio, the famous radio.
At most. Yeah. But see, did everybody even have a radio? I mean, it was probably a radio in one village. So, and one
a lot of people have radios in the developing world.
Yeah.
Well, didn't have much, but they had radios.
They had radio. Did they hand power? Did they have batteries? What did they use for energy? Batteries.
But I suppose that speaks to the institutions then, Mark, right? Because probably the person who had the radio almost had institutional power, right? And would have a kind of a communal center. And then
we're really bringing it down, though, compared to our period. I mean, what we're living in, talking about the machine level of what Ethan was describing is very different from what
and Ethan,
happened in Rwanda.
I really feel that, because it's not just the fact that we're talking over Zoom, but in some ways we've been drawn to each other through these algorithms, through, and Matt's pitch when, he got here, I'm shown on, I'm on YouTube probably more than I should be, but it's not just YouTube. It's also TV news. It's also print media, but I'm just shown these narratives. And I remember Elian Gonzalez. I mean, Mark and I are old enough to remember Elian Gonzalez and all the debate about that picture, because that picture presented a situation. And so often, almost every time I'm involved in something that makes, let's say, the local news, and I listen to the coverage of it, I'm always thinking, because I know so much more. But yeah, I really appreciate, Ethan, what Daniel was saying, and that I guess part of what I try to do, to the degree that I have responsibility or agency and whatever it is that's bringing us together here, is I listen to Mark Parker. I respect Mark Parker. You know, when our church needed a little bit of help fixing things up, Mark Parker came right up here and spent hours on a ladder wiring lights. And you know, Mark Parker and his wife showed up for an estuary meeting, and we did that retreat in Connecticut, and Mark was there, and Michael Sartori was there. And so to me, that sort of gets at what Paul Allen is talking about, in that I need to think about how, I've got a number of people who are in this country illegally in mind, who live right here in Sacramento, that I have personal relationships with, and thinking about their situation and their life, et cetera, et cetera. So I think to one degree or another, I address this crisis of impersonal machine bombardment with what I did when I started the Randos, which was, hey, who are you? I want to hear your story. And I might only have an hour or two to listen, but and we might not even meet again, but at least for this time that's together, let me try to encounter you as a human being. And actually, my whole experience with the internet has been torturous with that, because it would be a lot easier if I would just sort of learn from all the other internet celebrities and build a big wall between me and all of you, because y'all can be inconvenient sometime.
So I really appreciate the hard stories, and Mark, you putting the graphic visual on evil is very important. So when I was in El Salvador, I got to go to one of the fields where the massacre, villages where the massacre took place, and you could dig in the ground and find the shells. And we need to be reminded of these evils, which is sort of why I pitched this to begin with. And I think, like, I appreciate the passion, and my passion is, hopefully my passion is this passion of struggle and what we do with this. And but I think we are required to be challenged by these things, and allow them to form us. And then the question is the what's then, and that's where I'm still muddling through on what is the thing that I do to thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And so I think, although I can be argumentative, I am argumentative. I think I deeply appreciate the tensions that we're bringing forth here.
And oh gosh, I struggle with this stuff all the time, because we're talking about treatment of a fairly limited number of people by the wealthiest government in the world, which can be abysmal. And how many people has the government of Iraq mown down? And does American agency in that sense require that we use military power to, and then I think about, how much, in the Dominican Republic, there were these zona francas, which were these, kind of these sweatshop things. And we talk a lot about the treatment of the workers in these industrial set-asides. But then the reason people worked is because they actually got paid. And when they were picking coffee or cutting cane, it was a common thing that the boss would, same like Jim Crow, sharecropper tactics, where the boss would give out IOUs and basically keep the people in virtual slavery. This stuff goes on all the time. all over the world. And part of the reason where caring is so hard is that caring brought me out to those places to see it with my own eyes. And I had such limited agency. I remember there was a pastor dying, and I'd paid his hospital bill, and I'd paid his hospital bill, and I paid his hospital bill. And it got to the point of, I finally said, well, here's 1,000 pesos. You can either put that towards your hospital bill, or you can put it for your funeral. And he decided to put it to his funeral. And, you know, that's just one story. And I think many, many people live with those stories.
Paul, you reminded me of an anecdotal story that I heard very recently. So a family friend is a teacher. She has an Iranian student who was recently in Iran. She's recently come back. She said all her family are well and they're fine, and all her friends are dead.
Yeah. And then we get to then back to Matt's pitch. Well, what's the connection to me? And then Paul's point. Well, I can sit here and angst about the world, but I've got Daniel sleeping next to the Spartan final. Maybe my care should be for Daniel. Ian,
Yeah,
you were
'cause, like-
next. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Good, Ian. There you go.
Yeah, guys. I hope I sound okay. I'm driving. I just wanted to say that I resonate with Paul's analysis that the local agency, the immediate agency that you have in the world, is pretty much the fulcrum or the point of leverage in your and out that. I mean, obviously, I've been listening to you talk about this for 2.5 hours. It's very difficult to see how you can impact those things. But I've been having a lot of fun learning about the Mandelbrot structure as I try to get some thoughts out about fractals and sort of the fractal nature of reality. And I think that I think it was Ezra talking about the moffification of everything, and the idea is that you have this sort of Pollyanna view of like, well, if only enough people could switch their disposition so that they would be, trying to operate in a legitimate or benevolent way in the world, then things would change. But I actually think that that's the way that it works. And so the fractal idea that I have is like, when it's an infinite perimeter around the shape. And so you just keep zooming in and keep zooming in an infinite amount of times. And you get to see repeating structures of this fractal shape it's really, mind-bending. But the point is, when you zoom in, you're looking at another instance of when you are living as Christ in the same way that Mark Parker is laying out, like living as Christ, not trading your son's or someone else's son's well-being for your own, but rather giving of yourself in the immediate. It needs to remain bounded so that you can have the shape that imitates the larger. And I'm working on theories about like how that imitates like the logos, So the logos is this big structure, and then in our lives we get to imitate him. And those stories are infinite. And so Paul, PVK, your version of that is so beautiful in the Dominican, where you can't deal with the suffering at it's even a medium scale of the suffering, but you do deal with it on the personal immediate level. And in that way you have these stories, and the stories are just like the randos, where it's like, I don't know if we're accomplishing anything here, but I do know that I'm seeing you as a person, and for 2 hours you're going to commit to doing that. And that's like a hell of a lot better than arguing about whether or not something that's bad is bad. That's what I think.
All right. Thank you,
Can
Ian.
I just... Sorry.
Go ahead, Mark.
I got this pet irritation with the word fractal, and I know I go along with it because everyone else go with it. But the word literally means a fraction of. Fractal, fraction. And if you think about it, that denies the idea that man is made in the image of God. Okay, fractal is the wrong word. I'll go along with it because everyone else does. But it's not a fraction of. It's an exact replica of something higher or something lower. So something higher, God, man is made in the image of God. We're not a fraction of God. We're an image of God. It's different. Does that make sense? Please nod.
Yes.
Or...
I see what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm not going mad. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Sorry. Someone else.
Mark. Thanks, Mark. All right.
I did just make a. Can I say one? Just one connection between kind of like my pitch, sort of like the question of like, what do we do with all this? Like I was really struggling with how do I, as an individual, manage all of these massive issues, and how do I responsibly prudentially deal with it? And I'm just, again, it took me 2.5 hours, but started to connect that really, like Paul Allen's concern for institutions is, one of the answers to that. Because the institutions are the ways in which we participate in superhuman bodies, superhuman communities that are actually able to address these larger than individual problems.
Yeah.
And part of the problem is we're all kind of struggling with how am I participating in the body of America? What does the United States government have to do with me?
Yeah.
And what's my complicity or non-complicity with those actions on the ground?
Yeah.
Which is fractal. Sorry, just had to say that.
Well, and I think about, let's say you work for ICE, and you're a bureaucrat in an office at home, so nobody's throwing anything at your hotel, and you come home and say there are fewer kids in cages today because of what I did. Now, okay, so is that a win, or is it always a loss if there are still kids in cages? Or what if, let's flip it to abortion. There are fewer abortions today because of what I did. Is that a win? Because there were still abortions. I mean, this is the world we live in. And it's maddening.
Well, but what if faith is just this is the benefit of having Christian faith? Because I'm trying to figure out what the point is with being a Christian. Because everyone argues with me about, the marks of salvation and such, and I'm being judgy when I talk about these things. So, okay. So maybe what the point of Christian faith is to have the confidence to do what one knows is right, even when all evidence and all the worldly forces are driving me to think it's a mistake. But I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to. Jesus goes to the cross. Everyone said. I recently, I post things that create kerfuffles. One of the more recent kerfuffles is around Jesus' obedience, and he was faithful to his conscience, to his Father, but in being faithful to the Father, he called himself the Son of God, which made him a subversive in the Roman Empire, because he stole from the emperor his title, Son of God. The emperor had the title Son of God before Jesus was born. So faith, it seems to me, is acting, knowing what it's not like it's hard. We know what's right and wrong. I know I don't need to abuse. I know it's wrong to abuse the rights of others or to harm children for my own welfare. And if I have to live a little poor for it, so be it.
But
so I flip burgers instead of
you're harming them, because I know you wouldn't, Mark. But this gets back to the pitch. To what degree, by paying your taxes, are you participating in a system in which kids are in cages? So therefore, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing, you can use your voice, which is what you're doing. Another thing, you can decide you're no longer going to pay taxes. People have done that. I'm not going to pay taxes because my taxes buys bombs that bombs children in Vietnam. We've seen that. And so part of the wrestling here is, okay, I can say kids in cages is wrong and it should stop. There you go. The talk is cheap.
Right. Well,
so, this is part of what we're all wrestling in. And to continue to go ahead, Paul, continue to make the point is sort of like, okay, we got the point.
So stop supporting it, though. I mean, there are many, many ways short of the most extreme action to whittle away at the power structures that are implementing these grotesque injustices.
Okay, now tell me how I should stop it, Mark. Should I stop?
I'm not saying there's an answer to stop it. There's a way to add to leverage your position in society as an American citizen.
Okay, now Instagram says in order for me to stop it, I shouldn't buy from Amazon today. That's a pretty easy thing. I don't buy from Amazon every day. I should do that. So then at the end, I can say, I bought from Amazon. I did my part. I mean, the difficulty I think people are wrestling with is not only the question of which evil, but which action, which is, I think, part of the reason why people are saying, I might not be able to be steward of all of it. So maybe I'll help Daniel today. So I think that's part of where this is going.
Can I just very quickly say something, which is, I think there's a real rhyme between how you're talking, Mark, and what I've observed on what I would say on the right of American discourse, which is to highlight people who have been killed in accidents or other types of crimes perpetuated by people who were illegal in America. And in a way, there's a resonance, right? It's interesting just to see how the dialogue and there's echoes on both sides, and both just saying, well, look, one entity choose to bring these people into lower wages or whatever, and that's a type of indirect benefit if I'm getting cheaper products. And another side, in a sense, there's a kind of a rhyme between the two approaches that's being taken here, which kind of perversely shows a commonality of ground, right? It's and if you have commonality, you have an option to actually come back together into communion.
We'll see you, Mark. And I want to highlight. So Rick, he said here, start using your platform to speak out against what is going on instead of rationalizing it away. I don't think I'm rationalizing it away, but maybe he does. And okay. But then I have to also think, is that the only thing I talk about? Shall I make this show about kids in cages? Well, what about people shot on the street? How that? Well, let's get rid of ICE. Well, I remember defund the police. And I remember hearing that and thinking, boy, that's a different thing. So in other words, and in a sense, when you say it's so simple, I mean, I heard this for years on abortion as I was voting Democrat the whole time. It's so simple, Vander Clay. Why do you vote for the Democrats when the Republicans have a plank against abortion? It's so simple. I mean, because then you have this hierarchy of, well, kids, well, what's more innocent than a 6-year-old? How about a 2-month-old? What's more innocent than a 2-year-old? How about an 8-month fetus? I mean, we've run through the equations.
No, the simplicity is not the issue. The simplicity is found in how we just the standard of care is based upon what I would expect for myself and my own. Right.
But
that's the simplicity.
You wouldn't want your child in a detention facility at all, and neither would I. But the parent who has refused to take action so that their child would not wind up in a detention facility, that person's the victim and not responsible for their child being in a detention facility, whereas you have done everything in your life to make sure your kids were never in cages, and you succeeded. But that parent whose child is in a cage has no responsibility for that?
They may or they may not.
But
we don't know because we don't have enough transparency in the system. We don't have any. We do not have an independent judiciary overseeing any of this.
About children we don't know.
We don't know. We're flying blind because this administration is so freaking opaque.
Okay.
And they lie at every turn.
Okay.
We can't judge. How do we judge? They gaslight us at every turn.
Okay, Ben, go ahead.
I feel like there's something like illustrative about like even the fact that there is tension in the conversation about like getting caught up on the issue that's outside of the relationship, you know. In this case, like this is exactly what happens between like so many families and their in-laws is like, you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily have a close to the opening phrase of my thought, but
well, I frankly, when I talk to Mark this way, I would probably only do this to Mark because
you guys know
love
each
him,
other.
because I know him and I know his heart. And when I talk this way, all I'm doing is basically talking to them, not just the Mark Parker, but the person who thinks exactly like Mark Parker and believes just like him inside my head. And this is the other side of my head talking back and forth. And I'm just letting Mark in and the rest of the internet in.
I'm happy to be the angel on your shoulder.
That's right. So I've got Mark Parker on one shoulder and I got Phlebas on the other.
Phlebas!
Yeah.
And I would only pick Phlebas because I might be wrong, but I have enough confidence that my relationship with Phlebas is secure enough. But you're right, Ben, because I watched this tear up families, institutions, and I watch the good that could happen if they weren't torn up by this, which of course sort of brings me back to Matt's pitch in this, which I was with Ethan. I thought, yeah, that one's going to carry because that's what I'm feeling in my heart. But then I have this entire conversation in my mind where on one hand, part of my, the Mark Parker on my shoulder is saying kids in cages. And then my mental thing goes back to Haitians in slums and Chinese in factories and Iranians dead on the street like cordwood and children in human trafficking and so well, but it used to be Gaza, but they've sort of been swept away. So then someone says, are they doing a psyop on us? Are these middle spirits colonizing us? So, I mean, I just let you into what's in my mind. And to a degree, when someone just hits on whatever the topic is right now, part of me says, yeah, but I have a memory. And that stacks up next to the Rwandan genocide. And how can I make a whole picture so then it's salient, whereas someone comes and says, you can't do all of them. So maybe help the guy on the street. But then I go out my door and I have all of these guys. I mean, that's how I live.
I kind of have something sort of along that line. I'm going to try to articulate myself in front of the world, but I've been called a contrarian multiple times by my friend Mark D. Parker, and I don't try to be, but I think I kind of am, and the reason is because you talk to people and they have their thing that they're mad about. And it's all, they just want you to be mad with them. They want you to share their resentment. And if I did that to everybody who has a resentment, I would just explode with anger. And, so just like as you were saying, I mean, there are so many different things and, I don't know why should I mean, my thing about it's like, okay, so we should speak out against Trump. That's basically what I'm getting from Mark. Like, we need to call out Trump. But is Trump even, like, I think somebody said something about middle spirits. I feel like it's not even Trump. It's something else going on. Like there's because recently Trump, signed this whole milk bill to give whole milk to kids, and right behind him when he was signing it, there was this woman, Jamie Wixpelek, who's from Wisconsin, who lives right next to my mother-in-law, and she's with Pagel Farm, which is a factory farm, which basically buys up all the land from the farmers who can't make a living anymore, and just employs illegals. And she's standing behind Trump, and I just feel like saying well, I need to call out Trump. I feel like these powers who are supporting Trump aren't even really against immigration. They're benefiting from it. And there's other things going on that's so obfuscated. It's like, I don't even want to get frazzled over it. I'm against kids in cages and everything, but it's just who do I pick to get mad at? What do I get mad at? Because all the stuff that I try to get people mad about, they don't care. So why should I, pick other people's thing, But anyway, thanks for letting me talk.
Always, Mark, always.
I think one of the things that I was thinking about was, when does it become arguing about which is the best mafia family? When does it become, the Corleones are such a better mafia family than, the other mafia family, as opposed to talking about the problem being the mafia. So I feel like we could all come together about the mafia.
The problem is
we
mafias
happen to
exist to provide order in chaotic spaces, which is a natural good.
Do they provide order in chaotic spaces, or do they exploit chaotic spaces?
Well, it's interesting.
Both.
If you actually look at the history of the mafia in Sicily, it's a fascinating study, because here you had mafia was basically not a great government in Sicily when they had no government. And so there's these hierarchies of speaking of hierarchies of grift, here he is. So
Hi, everybody.
these are tough. Go ahead, Grizz.
I was just wondering if we could pray. I would like to pray right now.
Would you lead us in prayer?
I would like to lead everyone in prayer.
Okay, you do it, Grizz.
Anybody not wanting to participate can cam off or whatever. But
okay.
Dear Lord, our attention has been turned away from you and the good we can do to others by the evil set that focuses our attention on a giant bird with two wings, a blue wing and a red wing. And we argue and we fight about all of that and try to help push others into attention to it, when our attention should be on you. And help us. Help us. Sometimes the saving throws versus mind control do not work, Lord. And in that case, we need your divine intervention. Amen.
Thank you, Grizz. Chad, you're trying to get in. It says device not connected. Because I know you tried to get in before. There he is. All right, Chad, what say you?
Is this working?
It's working. We see you.
Okay. I got to listen to a good portion of this stuff, so I might already just be saying something that people have already said, but yeah, I mean, I think what I find, so the discussion, the topics were good because they're pointing to Stank and Sign. I'm with Stank. I personally don't I can't afford, I don't have the kind of the social capital or attention to spend on like watching a video about any of this shit. It's like, and so is that, I'm wondering though, is like, you know, for the last few years, we talked about something called spiritual bypassing, where, and I think that's interesting. And many people, I think, have found their way into like a spiritual space where they're kind of trying to grow spiritually. But now it's like the social bypassing, where it's like, I don't have any time for this shit. Like, I can't, like, I'm still trying to deal with the problems of domicide. I'm still trying to deal with, being a son of parents who I don't think are which is very unsatisfying. And I'm trying to be a father, and I don't even know what the hell that means. And meanwhile, I'm supposed to pay attention to this shit that's happening over here. And I'm supposed to, and if I don't, and if I speak out against paying attention to it, then I'm made into another kind of villain. I mean, maybe that's the cost of being public and having a public avatar. So yeah, it's just so frustrating. My goodness. And it's, it's hard enough just being a man and trying to go and wake up every day and go to work, pay bills, try to pray, try to, grow spiritually, try not to kill yourself, try to eat well, all the stupid shit. And I'm supposed to pay attention to people who are, I'm supposed to treat these people like they're stupid and say, well, I need to speak out against ICE because clearly the people who are worried about ICE are too stupid to think for themselves. I don't know. It's like, I'm really frustrated. I'm so frustrated by this. And which isn't probably shocking to anybody because I'm a very unstable person. And I'm just one of like, I don't know how many millions of unstable dudes out there who are trying to not be unstable. I'm trying to just be a dude. I'm trying to be a good man and obviously failing, and the best I can do is show up in life, handle first things first, and then socially bypass. Is that the best I should do? Do you understand what I'm saying about this social bypassing? Or am I just sounding like a jackass at this point?
And I had this exact conversation with my wife this morning because I have to, like I said, my most common prayer for my men's group is just ask God to give me wisdom in managing my time and attention, because that's the most valuable thing I have.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I wonder, honestly, here's an interesting thought. I don't know if we were meant to witness horror from a distance. Like we could read about it, but to see it, right? I think it'd be better if we witnessed horror in person. Then maybe you have a right to say something. Unless you've seen it with your own two eyes. But you're not. So I would say,
I'm in Southern California. I'm in Southern California. My kids that my wife serves are being traumatized by this shit. So it's very close to me, my friend. I just happen to be privileged enough to live a little bit farther away, and I happen to be white, so they're not going to bug me. So that's not.
Why aren't you speaking? Why
am I not speaking? What? Why am I not speaking?
I'm asking you a question, a real question here. Why aren't you speaking out against the grievances against me? I was born with a cleft lip and a cleft palate, and I had my ass beat on a near-day basis growing up. Why aren't you speaking about that? Why aren't you speaking out against that?
What about something that happened in the past that I wasn't witness to?
Me? Well, what about all the other people out there?
Jesus, are you okay? Are you following Jesus or not?
Like, that's my point. You're wasting people's time.
I'm wasting nothing, my friend. I'm using my energies and my time and my life to do good in the world as best I can.
Okie dokie.
Well,
then one thing keep doing that, I guess.
All right. Phlebas. And then I'm going to close the stream pretty soon.
I was just going to tell a little story. So I grew up in the sheltered CRC. But when I was like, yeah. But when I was maybe 12 or something, some of the more charismatic members of my church decided to take a group of us down to something called Kingdom Bound. And so I went down to Kingdom Bound, and it's concerts and whatever. And this was my first exposure to Big Eva. And one of the things they did there was they had the child sponsored people come out, and they had all the cards, and basically they give the whole spiel, $1 a day. These kids are dying. $1 a day. You can save a kid. And then they throw the cards in the crowd. So you can either pick it up, and obviously God has called you to sponsor that kid. And like Mark's saying, it's so clear, right? Starvation, evil, black and white issue. Everyone on this call, everyone in the comments can afford $1 a day. And if you don't pick it up, you're literally walking on the children. So it's very manipulative, right? It's completely driven by your guilt. And I was pretty young. It was my first kind of exposure to that thing. And that really affected me. Like from that point, it's like, oh, I should be sponsoring some kid. I could sponsor more. And I don't know, it took me a while, like a long time. And I still think about that affected me. But I basically come to the conclusion that trying to harness this universal guilt is somehow putting yourself in God's shoes and being like, I'm responsible for the entire world. The issue is so clear, and I'm not a person who doesn't think, or who thinks we have no agency with these big events. I don't think we can do nothing. I don't think, like, some people are really turning local. I think there's spirits that can affect good stuff, and sometimes you should join that. Like I think a spirit that turns against Donald Trump and whatever, that could be a force for good. But these are way more complex than it's so black and white. And I don't know, the universal guilt, the universal responsibility, I think comes from somewhere else. You're not God. And every one of you right now, there's a child starving because you guys don't feel guilty enough. And anyways, that's all I have to say.
Philippe,
Right. Go ahead, Jeremy. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, very quickly. Ezra was talking earlier about a number of times about framing this in terms of mob and mafia. And, thinking back to The Sopranos, one of the common refrains in The Sopranos is, "Don't I gotta eat too?" When they're extorting somebody or they're trying to squeeze an extra cut from somebody, they're all like, don't I gotta earn? Don't I gotta eat? Who's gonna put bread on my table?
That's
and
right.
It's like, oh man, I'm sorry. Go beat the junkie to death, right? Sorry. So guilt is a very effective weapon, right?
It is. All right. Any closing comments before I close the stream? And let me just say, I know this is hard. My heart, I don't like arguing. I really don't. Part of me does, but another part of me doesn't. But I do take it all in. And truth is, everyone on the screen, I know a little bit. Some of you, I know a little bit more. And I do respect all of you. And part of it is because, I know some of your stories a little bit. I know some of your stories more. Matt and I had a wonderful conversation in the airport. And that was so getting to know his story. And Chad, of course, my life is so enriched by knowing Chad and knowing Mark. Oh, Mark is a wonderful man. And Phlebas, I know Phlebas a bit, partly just by commonalities and little texts. So so I appreciate you all, and I listen to you. I really do. And maybe the reason I have so many voices in my head is because I've let all of you in. So, and I appreciate it. Any final words?
Sorry
Mark,
about that.
There's no sorry, Chad. I'm glad you told the story. I'm glad you shared with us. I mean, that gets into this Daniel Gardner thing. I know you because of what you said.
I was pretty hard on you, Chad, but I think you you being honest and truthful with us and yourself is beneficial to us all, and yourself.
Yeah, I mean,
I want you to be able to be. I don't know. Let me finish. Just say I want you to be completely honest. But in return, all I ask is that you allow me to be completely honest about myself, my views, and this is what I find a bit frustrating in the corner. Is I find I have so many people trying to talk me out of following my conscience.
Yeah,
and I take that to. Don't take this literally, but I take that as demonic. That's how I feel in response to it. Like, why are you working so hard to make me not good? And I'll leave it at that. But that's where I'm left a little bit frustrated. If you feel my passions elevated, that's part of what's at work there.
And I would also say, because I watch this dynamic a lot, and I watch Mark speak his mind, and I watch some of the regulars, Phlebas and Freerillian, kind of come back at him. And part of me in fairness says, why do these things bother Mark so much? But then I also ask, why does Mark talking bother these other people so much? And, because if there's something going on that makes Mark react, well, there's something going on that makes, and to put it back on me, that makes me react. And probably, Mark, part of it is I'm reacting because you're triggering something in my mind that says, Mark is right. Mark is right. But then the other voices are saying, the other voices that are all coming into what I think and what I do and what I say. It's super hard.
Yeah, maybe it has something to do with maybe we're all kind of like in a strange way on a similar track. We have similar desires. We want the bullshit to stop. We'd like to be living in a world that's more beautiful, and it's frustrating because we can't seem to change it, though we think we can, and we have our own like ideas. Like I feel like I just don't think I'm gonna be like a righteous person. I'm not gonna be able to. Like at the end of the day, I don't think like when when Trump was asked if he was going to go to heaven or something, he kind of joked that he wasn't. Like that was relatable to me. Like I don't think I'm going to heaven. It's not my business. Hopefully my business is to continue to try to seek Christ, even though I'm going to fall short of that. But continue to try to do good where I can. But yeah, and then so. Yeah, that's the frustration. I think we all are sharing the same frustration. Maybe that's the commonality, is why. That's the frustration. Why does it have to be this way? Can't it be some other way? Something like that. I don't know. I got to go.
All right. Thank you, Chad.
See you guys.
Thank you. The rest of you.
See you, Chad.
Gosh. What silly branding am I going to play after such a difficult live stream? It kind of breaks my heart to play Freddie branding because Freddie's not doing real well, but he's doing a little better. I got him out of the house, and he went with me through a drive-through, and so that was a step forward. I thought that was good. But thank you all, and I appreciate what you do.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Maybe holy smoke and mirrors. How about that?
Ooh, yeah. Can you feel it? That sweet, sweet revelation. Truth is served. Take a sip. Ooh, it's a holy sensation. Sip the Kool-Aid, baby. Pass the cup. Don't say maybe. You're in, you're never out. Say amen, scream and shout. Don't you question, just obey. Groove with us and fade away.
Still I have it. There are moments I conveniently forget that I'm a 40-year-old man. The last vestiges of a ghost long dead. A ghost with a messiah complex. A messiah too lazy to rise or ascend. Happily hurt and hard. A hanger-on or haunting of a time past. A heroic dream of the harrowing of hell. Failure to launch. Cling to a life vest, treading in spells that linger and last. Mom and Dad, righteous and mad, daydreamers with ghosts of their own. My memory of them stoic, looking with aims to pretend. Always on the brink of somewhere. Each a child dancing on the fence. On down the river, dreamt in the sunshine. Saturday morning cartoons, the only Sabbath I knew. A disciple of Jim Henson and John Hughes. Worship in cathedrals where the Toys R Us, baptized in ball pits. A clown served the sacrament we eat. More Pepsi and Pizza Hut. Say please. Say cheese. Between Kurt Cobain, a scrambled cable screen, towers tumbling, Super Bowls, and reality TV, the ghost is constitutionally unwilling and intrinsically unable to see and be seen. Searching madly for attention to seek. But you can be anything. Never say never. If you've got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing. Ever. Don't talk to strangers. See what I say. Just do it. You don't listen very well, do you? You don't do very well, do you? You're not looking too good, are you? Keep up. Appearances aren't what they seem. Will you ever grow up? You look like you're stuck. You think you took too much. Echoes the ghost within the host who prays the dead bury their dead and stay buried in a fading dream.
Where are you here?
Oh, there I am. Hey.
Where are you? Where?
Got me?
Oh boy. Yeah. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me.
Come on, man.
Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. All that long is Jesus' journey. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. Yeah.
Walk with my mama.
Yeah, walk with my mama. walk with me too.
You walk with my mama.
Yeah.
Walk with me.
And walk with me too.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Jesus
journey.
I want Jesus. Walk with me.
Walk with me. Hold my hand, Lord. Hold my hand. Hold my hand, Lord. Hold my hand. All along this Jesus journey. Hold my hand, Lord, and hold my hand. Walk with me. You walk with Moses.
Walk with me.
Walk with me.
You walk with Moses. Walk with me.
Walk with me.
While I'm home.
Yeah. Jesus journey.
I want Jesus.
I want Jesus to walk with me.
Say, walk with me, Lord. How y'all doing? Walk
with me.
Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me.
Walk with me.
Come on, my city. I want Jesus.
I want Jesus
to walk with me.
To walk with me. Walk with David, a little shepherd boy. Yeah, you made him a great king. I know David shouted for joy. He walked with David, and he's a little shepherd boy. You made him a great king. And David shouted for joy.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. So walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. All along this Jesus journey. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. You gotta walk with me, Lord.
Yeah! That was rocking great, brother.
Oh, yeah.